Welcome back to day 4 of Advent of Tessellations. Today we're going to be folding a tessellation that I call cluster 4 alternating, where we have clusters of 4 equilateral closed triangle twists that have the center on the opposite side from the corner twists, and they're spaced as closely together as possible. So let's dive in. The first thing I'm going to do is locate the center of my paper. And once I've located the center, I can see in the crease pattern that I'm going to have alternating lines of mountains and valleys, 2 spacings long each, around the center. So I'm going to go ahead and mark all of these lines on my paper. You don't necessarily have to mark these lines on yours. So when I'm looking at this, I know that any valley needs to have a parallel mountain beyond it. And I'm going to go ahead and extend one of these mountains to meet that parallel mountain of the valley and get a right-handed triangle twist. So I've got really 2 reasons to twist this way. One is that this mountain folds over that valley. And the second is that there is no valley inside of this mountain. The valley has to be on the outside, and I have to twist this way. And we're going to go around, and our twists are going to be on opposite sides of the paper from their neighbors, just like they were yesterday for a cluster 6 alternating, except this time we're going to be clustering in groups of 4. Just like we had on day 2, our central loop is going to be equally spaced apart. So we're going to have the same spacing between each twist in the central loop, and then we're going to change the spacing as we go out to get the center of the cluster, not just 6 corners of clusters. So flipping my paper over, I'm going to keep this pleat that I'm holding in my right hand, and my next twist needs to have its center 2 spacings out from the closed hole. I can verify that this is the right positioning by looking back at my drawing on the other side, where this is supposed to be a valley fold, and it is indeed a valley fold. Using, again, the fact that we have an existing pleat that already has a defined mountain and valley, and also the fact that this pleat in the center needs to fold out away from the center point, I can set up my next closed triangle twist and squash it. While we're on this side, I can grab the other pleat that's in the central loop off of the twist we did on the other side and do the same thing. So I'm going to go 2 spacings out from the closed hole, set up my 3-way intersection, use the existing pleat to guide my rotation around, and squash the twist. With that done, I'll flip over, and I have 2 parallel pleats that form stairs. So I'll start at the top of the stairs, and again, going 2 spacings out from the closed hole, I'll set up my 3-way intersection and then squash that into a closed triangle twist and have my pleat overlap being set up. With my pleat overlap, I'm going to open the most recent pleat, and I've already drawn in where my valley needs to push the mountain down. Then it goes and meets the neighboring valley, joins to form a three-way intersection of valleys. This three-way intersection of valleys is going to have a three-way intersection of mountains just above it, but I'm not going to fully emphasize that yet until I get the three-way intersection of mountains that we need for our triangle twist on this side, two spacings out from this closed hole. Once that three-way intersection is in place, we can go ahead and squash our triangle twist, lay down our triangle wrap, and flip our paper over, open the triangle wrap, and squash it. So from here, I could flip back to the front side of the paper and continue from there, but that would include an extra flip of the paper, so why not stay on this side? What I've folded so far are all corners of clusters of 4. And in these clusters of 4, the center has its corner right at the closed hole of the corner. And so I've got a closed hole of a corner. I'm going to have just one pleat to put a center on. I'm going to put that center one spacing out, put in my three-way intersection, be careful not to undo that triangle twist on the other side, and squash my new twist. Now, there's no neighbors of this twist I just made that I can fold on this side, so I'll grab that twist, keep it on my right-hand side, and look and see, okay, here's a pleat that's at the top of a staircase. Starting at the top of the stairs, this was my center point. That means that all 3 corners are going to be close in to that center. And I'm going to have a three-way intersection, one spacing out from the closed hole. Again, you want to preserve the existing triangle twists, which I will squash, and which will create lots of, or just the one pleat overlap. In this pleat overlap, unlike yesterday's tessellation where the pleats that went away from the center had far neighbors, this is going to have a close neighbor. And I'm going to pop the mountain down so the valley can run straight to the closed hole. The valley is going to meet up with the valley on the outside of this mountain. And then I'll form a three-way intersection that has the closed triangle that I'm seeking, and squash my new twist. Once that's squashed, just like yesterday, we're going to flip over and resolve our three-way intersection into a closed triangle. Then we'll continue around, and we're conveniently positioned at the top of stairs. And this is going to be a shared property of all of these tessellations that have triangle twists that are alternating front and back. That you can put in a triangle and then have the pleat overlap and set up the triangle and a triangle wrap, and then flip over, resolve the triangle wrap, be at the top of the stairs. And so this looks like a cluster that's in need of a third corner. We can go ahead and put that in. The three-way intersection needs to be one spacing from the closed hole on the other side, and squash. And from here, we're repeating what we've done previously. We have our pleat overlap. We're just on the opposite side of the paper and we're twisting in the opposite direction. We have our pleat overlap. We need a close neighbor to this closed hole. So we're going to let our valley run through. We can either set up our three-way intersection of valleys or our three-way intersection of mountains first. And again, note there are two three-way intersections of mountains. And then squash or twist. Then flipping over will resolve the triangle wrap with a closed triangle twist. And we'll repeat again. We've got this cluster that's missing a corner. And we'll stick that triangle twist in there, one spacing from the closed hole, centered one spacing from the closed hole, and pop the valley in so it crosses the mountain, set up the three-way intersection of valleys and the two three-way intersections of mountains, squash our new twist, then flip over, resolve our pleat overlap, our three-way intersection, and go on to the next top of the stairs pleat that needs to provide a third corner for our cluster of 4 twists. And so we can keep doing this all day long. If we had more grid, we would do exactly the same things. And I'll pop this down so we can set up our three-way intersection. And what I want to demonstrate with the next set of pleats, once I flip this over and squash this triangle twist, is that there's another way to set it up that doesn't involve popping any mountains down. And that is setting multiple of them up at once. I know this is a big step, and I don't necessarily expect you to immediately jump into this if you're not already familiar with triangle wraps. So let me show you how I would do it in my own folding. And if you want an example of how to do it one pleat at a time, well, yesterday's video has that as well. So I'll set up the three-way intersection at the top of the stairs, but instead of running the mountain that's going to cause the pleat overlaps down through, I'll stop it where the valley is going to come through for the next twist. And then likewise with the, and that'll go ahead and set up the three-way intersection of valleys in there. So I'm setting up the triangle wrap immediately. And that next one, well, that needs a triangle wrap too, because that's going to cause a three-way intersection. And so I know this one needs to be right in close to the rest of its cluster buddies. And that means my three-way intersection of valleys is all the way out here. So again, this is kind of the advanced shortcut version of how to fold this tessellation. And then I'll squash each of these 3 twists on this side in turn before flipping over and folding out my 2 three-way intersections. Now there is a particular order that I'm folding these to. It's get this pleat out of the way so that this one can take up the space that the first one was in. And that's how you fold this tessellation. And again, like I've been saying with the previous 3 days, repeating further out is exactly the same. We're going to have these 2 loops, and in the first loop we start clusters, in the second loop we finish clusters. That's going to be true for all tessellations with clusters of 4 equilateral triangles. And this is the last of our tessellations with all closed triangles. Tomorrow we're going to add closed hexagons into the mix. So looking forward to teaching you that one as well, and I will see you then. Happy folding!